All right, you know what this is. It's a debate, except very one-sided because you put forward a brief character-limited post and I respond with a monologue in return. And by the end of it, hopefully we've come to a better understanding or appreciation of each other's stances. Now, these can range from topics of just stuff I've said in videos to your opinions on literature as a whole. Let's go ahead and jump right on into it. All too often, it feels like Daniel just chooses the comments with the most likes instead of planning out the video and getting actual hot takes. 2/3 of these takes are lukewarm at best, stating things that most people in this community have already stated. You're absolutely right here. There's nothing wrong at all in that statement. And it's a little bit on my shoulders. It's actually quite a bit on my shoulders because I took it in good faith that people would upvote the hottest of takes and the things they wanted to see me respond to, because it says to do that in the post, and not just what they agreed with. But I should have realized that after like the first episode and done deeper digging to find the spiciest spice. But I failed to do that until now. Now I am going to be looking for the hotter takes and doing a better job. I'm here for it. Let's go. When people say you need to read it twice to fully enjoy it and understand it, that's a negative criticism of a book. Absolutely not. This is completely and utterly wrong in my opinion, because there are many books that you're not even supposed to fully understand every bit of the story until you are finished, and then it'll be recontextualized once you go through once again. And that's actually just a feature of the story, and so that can be a very big positive because it's something the author attempted and executed quite well. This idea that needing to reread a book or rewatch a movie or re-listen to a song to fully appreciate it is a bad thing is not true, and quite a bad take to have, honestly, in my opinion. Don't mean to rally on you too hard there, Rick. This is a spicy no from me, man. And to the 8 people that agreed with you, you rot in hell and you die. No. So let's go with the spiciest take of this entire video right now. My literature teacher said that Lord of the Rings was sci-fi. It is the spiciest take, and it is the most controversial opinion to have. And it's sometimes I think Brandon Sanderson is extremely overrated. As someone who respects, but in many ways is largely indifferent to complicated magic systems, I don't find a whole lot attracting me to reading his works other than the hype surrounding them. Itchy eye, itchy eye, itchy eye. So here's my hot take back to you all in this sense, and I want to push at the Cosmere fandom a little bit here. Brandon Sanderson might be suffering, no, he's definitely suffering from audience overhype, and that's not meant to be taken as me saying Brandon Sanderson is bad. Anyone who's been paying attention at all here on the channel knows I love the guy's writing. That being said, it's a disservice to ignore flaws of his, which a lot of his fans do. It's become popular to point out that his prose are not the strongest, but he has more flaws as a writer outside of that, just as every writer who is a flawed individual is going to have mistakes, issues. I'm tempted to do a whole video series just on various writers' weakest aspects to prove to people like, no, Jim Butcher isn't the end-all be-all of modern fantasy, and Brent Weeks has trouble as well. Every author is going to have spots they need to work and improve on, and the only thing you can really hope is that they're able to see it within their own writing. Luckily, we have seen Brandon come out and criticize his own work repeatedly in his career in ways that show a lot of an ability to look back and, you know, judge pretty harshly on his own writing, which I appreciate. But yes, I agree that Brandon is overhyped, and it's okay to not like him, unlike what some people in fantasy will put forward. He's not proven himself to be modern-day Tolkien, and I don't think it's fair to put the level of weight on his shoulders as a writer as some fans do by claiming he's the absolute end-all be-all. We need to see a legacy unravel before we can fully judge an author's capabilities. You know, I am a strong believer it's impossible to know, oh, this person is a GOAT, you know, greatest of all time, during their career. And I made a whole video where I think that was a large point of it. And no matter how much people try to misinterpret what I was saying he has the potential to be, and boy, I'm excited to see his legacy roll out, because I think he's someone who continually shows improvement. But having someone who's not a fan, due to the various reasons and problems he currently does absolutely still have as a writer, is completely fair. And I actually do have a problem with a lot of the fans who just hype Brandon as a required reading for modern fantasy, when I don't think there is anyone who is required reading for modern fantasy. I won't put Wheel of Time forward as that. I won't put anything forward as that, because it's not fair. Because it implies if that person like picks up this required thing and doesn't like and appreciate it, they're not like good at fantasy, which is just a level of gatekeeping I'm not ever going to be in. Sirius, while being a good person and character, isn't a good quote-unquote father to Harry. He encourages him to do dangerous, risky things for the fun of it, and though he has good intentions, can be a bit rash. Yeah, I don't know if that's entirely on Sirius, because I don't think he was trying to necessarily be Harry's father. Harry certainly saw him that way and tried to put him in that new category, but I don't think Sirius ever was consciously thinking, I am fathering Harry now. He was trying to mentor him, no question, and be a good godfather. But I think personally, from my judgment of his character, he would have probably not agreed with someone looking at him and say, you are the surrogate for Harry's dad, because he knew Harry's dad and he respected him and he wouldn't ever want to assume he could fill those shoes. But I do agree that he was a rather risk-taking mentor. I do agree with that part of this. Hot take! Daniel's spirit animal is a pangolin. You are wrong, sir. My spirit animal is, without question, the mighty moth. A great character does not need a great character arc. This is surprisingly very true, and something that is a misconception even among critics. A character does not necessarily mean an arc. That's actually sometimes when I specifically mention in reviews, this is an established character. It's not someone who's necessarily going to go through great change or an immense story that's going to have a massive impact on them. They don't need that. They are an established, for sure, firm person. You have too many E's in your name. That's just hurtful right there. My English teacher once said that graphic novels aren't considered literature, but I think that graphic novels can be as good as normal books, quote unquote normal. I found V for Vendetta, for example, to be a great book. This kind of snobbery we've addressed on the channel before, and I think anyone who tries to just position for a medium of art as just below is very short-sighted, because usually history will show that they're wrong, and it's why I've been so open to anime as a medium since people have been saying, no, you really need to give this X, Y, and Z a try, and that open-mindedness finally paid off. I really loved Attack on Titan, and there you go. I was wrong, and absolutely the storytelling within Attack on Titan proved to me that my dismissal of a medium was a gross and inappropriate thing to do. That being said, I'll never try and force someone who just says blanketly, I don't like this on anybody, because they're not in the position I am, where to do my job well, I need to get over these things. They're just individuals and life is short. Also, just going tangentially off this, I've had a lot of people comment that anime is not a genre, it's a medium, and I need to stop saying that, because I have unfortunately said that in my Attack on Titan review. I'm aware, that was just a slip of the tongue. Sorry, brain fart. Hot take, a villain that is pure evil and isn't explored to be relatable can be great if done right. In the real world, we have dictators, serial killers, and people even psychologists struggle to understand. Sometimes it's nice to have a villain who is outright evil and easy to hate, like Sauron, Palpatine, the Joker, Darkseid, and so on. Completely agree. But my personal taste does not lie there. For example, none of the villains you just listed I personally have a strong liking of. That being said, no, I do generally agree, but for my personal taste, I need to, for a greater investment of the story, need to somewhat understand where the villain's coming from. Now, this also is a little bit dependent on genre. For example, horror movies, thrillers, suspense stuff, that's not more focused on character, it's more focused on tension and things along those lines. Completely. And that's why, like, in a top 10 villains of all time video, I would make maybe the case of like a xenomorph being in there and talk about pure evil, completely unmotivated animal instincts incarnate. There you go. The beaver is a truly proud and noble animal. You're absolutely right, and they are architectural masterminds of the animal kingdom. Songs and audiobooks should be sung, not just read. That's tricky. Oh, that's hard. I'm going to disagree, because if you've picked a narrator who has a magnificent voice with gravitas to bring your story to life, great, but that doesn't necessarily mean they can sing. And if that narrator is then going to be put in a position where they're made to sing, that's a problem. And that could completely ruin a performance, because I bet they'll be uncomfortable. The performance itself will not be great because they don't have a voice, and then you've just damaged your audiobook irrevocably. The other option would be to bring in another narrator, which to me kind of hurts things. I like the full performance to come from one mind. That's why I'm not the biggest fan of graphic audio, but that's preference, so people could be on their side of that. But I'm gonna say no. In general, a lot of audiobook narrators can't sing, and those people should not be made to. You can, of course, as I've pointed out, do other arguments in there, but in a generality, combative debate sense, I will say that I don't feel comfortable forcing a narrator to do a performance they didn't necessarily sign up for. Daniel should have long spoiler section in his reviews / full spoiler reviews. We all want to hear Daniel fan out about a series without worrying about spoiling stuff. This is something I struggle with regularly, right? Because I have to balance the, I'm a fan who wants to geek out about this stuff, to that video will perform a third as well as the rest of the stuff and hurt how much money I make and, you know, my career. And people get mad at me when I say that. They're like, oh, you're sounding like a hack sellout. Like that's not cool. Like you need to have artistic integrity. But if I came up to that same person at their job and said, hey, would you take a 20% pay cut for the whole day for your integrity of your job right now? Most people would probably say no. You know, so there's a balance I have to find. I'm trying to think of ways to incorporate this, and I think what I'm typically going to do is wait until I finish a full series and then do long form series spoilers reactions. Because I think doing spoiler reviews for each individual book is just not as productive, and I don't have enough content usually to fill a girthy video. That was a word choice. So yeah, you might see like a full Dresden series spoilers discussion from me, and if I'm going to do that, trust me, that's going to be a thick boy of a video. That's going to be a chunker, and I'm looking forward to working on those. But right now I'm really behind on a lot of the videos I wanted to make, so things like that have taken a back burner. That's why I haven't even gotten my Discworld videos done yet, because with the move coming up and things like that, my bigger projects are having to be shoved off, and a lot of these easier ones, like this video right here, are taking priority because I just can't focus on a big project when I have to do like 8 million things to prepare to move. Hence why my bookshelf is empty. Isn't that terrifying? It looks awful. I hate it, but I was really anxious one day about the move and I had to do something. So to let out my anxious energy, I just packed up my bookshelf. That almost fell on me. That was terrifying. Original does not equal better. A good solid tropey story beats an original concept done poorly every day. Emphasizing the original because nothing is really original anymore. That I disagree with. We definitely have original things coming out now. But okay, your original point here. Yes, sure, for raw enjoyment value, you're not wrong. But I also have a bit more respect for something that tried to be different and failed, rather than something that played it safe and went about for a story we've seen a million times. Don't get me wrong, I can still respect both, but there's a level, there's a certain lane of respect that's only reserved for the stories that seems like to me, that feel like to me, they really took a risk. Tolkien would not have liked that his books were turned into movies because he never liked plays / theater. That being said, he would have loved the soundtrack. Hard agree with the latter part of your argument, but very strong disagree with the former. Not because I'm sure he would like it, that'd be arrogant of me to say, but because I don't like putting words in people's mouths, and we don't know exactly how Tolkien would feel. Maybe he would see it as an entirely different medium than plays. I know I sure view movies and plays as just two different entire lanes. That was a sound effect. And I just don't like that idea of fans being outraged on behalf of an author who's not even here to confirm whether or not that outrage would be needed, and instead I'm just going to judge the adaptation on the merits of the adaptation. The internet has this really strong philosophy of putting words and opinions in people who cannot actually defend whether or not that's what they would think or say's mouths, and I'm just not going to back that. I just refuse to. Lukewarm take. When you rank your favorite series of all time, you should rank them purely off of enjoyment and not out of respect. You ranked A Song of Ice and Fire, which you had an A tier in another video, above a couple series that you had an S tier in the same video. So I think you should just go off of enjoyment factor. Yeah, I always try and make it abundantly clear at the beginning of each video how I'm trying to approach it and what lens. And apparently people are really frustrated with that, and it leads to inconsistencies, because in one video I'm doing enjoyment, another I'm doing respect, and then another I'll do influence, and another I'll do, you know, XYZ, etc., etc., etc. And if you add into that the fact that one day to another I'm gonna feel different because I'm a human being and everyone's opinions and stuff change day to day, that's just how enjoyment works. So yeah, I definitely see there, but I also kind of like constantly changing things up, because the comments I then see are you know, constant speculation around why I'm putting something higher or lower here, and it leads to more insightful discussion inadvertently, and I do appreciate that, but I also can totally sympathize with that. This is frustrating because you're not consistent. But I'm not a consistent person, to be honest. I mean, if I went back to my last like top fantasy video and redid it today, it would look a bit different, just would. Like, that's how human mind is. And I know a lot of critics have this, like, I must be consistent on everything, and despite whether or not I actually feel this way today, I'm going to just rely on the, here is what my definitive is of all time. I just don't do that, because to me it sets an unrealistic expectation and is not entirely honest. I hate when authors retcon their plot lines behind the scenes because the fans figured out the intentions. Too many stories get ruined because writers want to surprise the audience with cheap shock value when the best stories of all time are extremely rewatchable regardless of knowing the twist. Oh, my Lord, Jonathan, you are entirely right. Every time I have seen an author who said, like, oh, I went back and changed things because fans figured it out, I get just a little hurt and die inside, because that's not how storytelling should go. And I'm sorry, authors, you aren't seeing every message thread. I promise you, if you have a popular series, every possible ending has been discussed and speculated on, because that's what nerds do. And so you're not going to have an ending that no one saw coming. It's impossible. There's going to be a million fans, and all of them are trying to make different predictions, so they're gonna go the route you're gonna go, unless for some reason you're just like, well, the earth opened up and killed everyone, that's the ending. Like, that's not... You can't do that. And so I fully agree, and I think it actually damages the legacy of series because it's not going in the direction the story was meant to, the momentum was carrying. Instead, we get this turn, which can be still executed well, but it's a risk. And if the author keeps doing this, you can end up with a jumbled ending that's just very unsatisfying. So I'm gonna end this video with a message that I totally agree with Jonathan on this. I can't even pretend to debate you, because yes, for the love of God, don't change your endings just because you want shock value. Won't pan out like you think. Stay true to the story you wanted to tell, or you still want to tell to this day, and go from there. I'm not saying you can't evolve your story as an author going forward. If, you know, by book 5 you realize you want to go a different place, go. Just don't let your motivating factor being, I want to surprise the fans. Because no matter what, there are going to be fans who are not surprised because they called it. And that's the end of this video. Like and subscribe if you have not already. Hit the Patreon if you want to support what I do here. And have a good one, y'all. Peace.